Hello everyone, this is part 1 of my how to make a nylon stockwhip with a full plait handle, and I'm going to be showing you how to make a full plait handle today. I usually start with the handles first, but sometimes I do start with the thong and then make the handle accordingly, but usually I start with the handle. So the first item you're going to need is your handle material. I use golf clubs. This one I get from a thrift store for, I get them for only about $1 each, and the ones without heads are sold even cheaper, so I get those too. So this one's metal, but I also do carbon fiber golf clubs. But yeah, so this one's about 21 3/4 long, 3/4 inch. So we're going to be doing a 20-inch handle. But the math is very simple to adjust your strand lengths, so I'll be explaining that too. So first what we're going to want to do is prep the handle. So what you're going to need is some artificial sinew and some hockey tape or duct tape, not electrical tape. But I prefer hockey tape just because it's a lot thinner, and so it's hidden a lot better. So first what we're going to want to do is you tie a little slip knot with your sinew, okay? So what I do is I go up around my finger like this, back up, wrap around and around. Now you have this loop. Put the string or the sinew through the loop. Now, just as I screw it up, pull it through and pull tight. Now we have a little slip knot here. What we're gonna want to do, take the very end of it, the thinnest part, okay? So here's the biggest part, here's the thinnest part. We're gonna put it on here. Nice and tight. Now, you're going to want to just spiral all the way down to the end of your future handle. Previously, I marked where the 20-inch mark right over here with some hockey tape, just so that when I'm plaiting, I know I've reached the end, because it's going to get covered up anyway. So you're going to want to go a little bit past where you're going to finish, okay? Now, just go around it once. Now we've made an X, okay? See that? Now, we're just going to spiral all the way back up. Alright, we're at the top here, so just go around a couple times, and now you're going to snip this, alright, and just put this off to the side for a second. If it unwinds, just wind it back up, it's no big deal. So you're going to want to take a little bit of hockey tape, not very long, and we'll trim it as needed. Just put this in my garbage. So just take maybe 3-inch long piece, and it's good to have a nice sharp pair of scissors so that you don't fray any paracord or sinew or anything like that. I just get mine at the dollar store, and it's fine for me. Okay, so now you see this little bump that was created because of that slip knot? We're just gonna want to cut that off because we don't want any bumps up here. We want it to be nice and smooth at the end. So we're just gonna snip all that mess there right off. finally, what we're gonna do, I have a little torch here, and we're just gonna melt that sinew back a little bit, and then smush it down onto the metal. Okay, see that? I just singed it and smushed it down. Now, we're gonna take our hockey tape. I'm just gonna find about the middle point, put it there, wrap it around, and stop. Okay, so we're just barely covering where we started. We're gonna cut it because we don't want it to be thick wrapping of hockey tape, otherwise that'll mess with the taper of the handle. Now you're gonna want something to smush the tape inside of the golf club with. I just have random things here, so I'm gonna use my Permalock needle and just smush that inside there. Okay, and so now that covers up the sharp end of the golf club, because even when you file it, I've filed it before, it can actually start to slice the paracord. Not a lot, but so that's why it's always a good idea to just cover it with some hockey tape. Just make sure that that sinew is secure, and it is. So yeah, it's time to get on to the next step. So what you're gonna want to do is measure out how much of the handle you're gonna plait. So in this case, 20 inches, okay? And basically, for this handle, because it's only, how wide? Just over a ½ inch wide at the very, very end, I'm just gonna do 12 plait. A 12 plait, full plait handle, okay? And so, basically, for all whips, for all nylon whips, it's 1.8 times the length that you want to plait. So in this case, it's 20 inches. So to be safe, what I like to do is I do 2 times instead of 1.8, just so you have a little bit extra at the end in case you make any mistakes along the way or anything should happen. So in this case, you're going to want 40 inches on each side. So that's 80 inches for each strand. And so we're going to want to have 6 strands total, okay, for 12 plait. So that's 80-inch strands for each one. So 6 80-inch strands of any colors you like. So in this case, I'm going to be doing royal blue and black. I'll be back when I have those strands cut. I have all these strands cut, and I'm going to show you how you want them to be set up. So first, I'm going to be doing this in 2 colors, royal blue and black. I'm going to be doing a half and half pattern. Because this is half and half, it's a little bit more complicated to set up. So if you're doing just one solid color, then you can actually just do one solid flat braid with all 6 strands, alright? But this time, I'm going to be doing 2 keepers basically. Each one is a 3 flat braid. In order to do that, find the centers of all of your strands and then put one black there, another black right here, and then our first blue strand. Actually, can I just take this, that there, and that there. Also, something that you're going to want to have is about 6 pins. I just have normal straight pins. I also have some sewing needles. But yeah, you're going to want some pins to hold stuff in place. Find a black strand. We're going to put that right next to the blue. There's black, and then blue. One last blue strand. Here we go. So we have 3 strands on each side, and this will all turn into 12 strands in the end. Okay, so we have our 2 sets of strands here ready for us to plait the flat braids. So first I take the far left strand and I go over the middle one and under the far right strand. Okay, now I'm gonna go far left, over, far right, over. Okay, make sure it's all nice and tight because you don't want that to be loose. Now far left, over, pull, over. You're not going to be pulling as tight as like if you were plaiting. Far right, over, far left, over, far right, over, far left, over. So now we're just going to count how many bites we have on this braid. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, there we go. That's our first keeper plaited up. And you want to end with the blue strand that you started with up here on the right, like you started, okay? Because we want it to be set up like that. Now, we're going to take one of our pins. So I just have some straight pins here. Just going to take one, and I'm going to just secure this in place like that. Next, far left, under, over. Okay, far left, under. Now, pull, pull, and pull. Now, far right, under, far left, under, far left, under, and so on. I can't take credit for coming up with this technique. I learned this from Torrance Fisher at Swordguy Builds. He showed it in one of his videos, and it's an awesome technique. Again, make sure you're going under this time. You're not going over, okay? Because you're doing the reverse, the exact opposite. Okay, so we just reached halfway point, I think. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Now under, go. And so if you're doing 10 plait, you'll notice that if you're doing 2 colors for 10 plait, you can't do the half and half pattern, sadly. At least I don't know how to. I'm sure there is some sort of way you could do it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Do they match up? Yes, they do. Perfect. We have the black on the left and the blue facing the right. Okay, so next you're going to want to cross this strand over here. You see how this is on, it's going over, right? And this one is going under a strand. So you're going to want to take this one and go under this one. So this one's going over that. Cross them like this. Now, you have black on the left side, or on the right, depending on how you set it up, and blue on the right. So, what you're going to want to do now is just put those together. another pin and just secure that in place. Perfect. If you've reached this point, congratulations. You're doing a lot better than I did the first time I tried this. Make sure that's all secure. What I like to do, because this one's going under and it's not really secured, you might just want to take an extra one, just go through there. Now that's all secure. We are going to loosen up the vise. I'll show you what to do on the other side. So you're basically doing what you did on the other side, okay, but on this side. So you don't have to secure it this time. You can just do it freehand. So what you're going to want to do is take this strand here, put it over, and then pull so you can take out these pins. Pull this strand, go over, and you want both of the same color on one side. Okay, so I have 2 blue on this side and 1 black on this side, and that's what you want to achieve the half and half pattern. So we're going to do the same to this side. Pulling this under, pulling this under. Now just make sure all the strands are nice and snug. Now make sure you put your pin there. So it's just like the other side. So we have 2 blacks on the inside on the left side and 2 blues on the inside on the left side. Now this one's going over. So, as we did before, under, okay? But this time it's going to go under and over. Now we have 2 blacks on this outside, on the outside there, okay? Now, this one's going under, over, and you're going to go under again onto this side, okay? This strand here is going under, over. We're going to go under. All right? And that is about it for setting up the keepers. So now we're just going to tighten this. Just pull each strand gently until you have a nicely formed square, just like you're doing a square start. I'll take my pin now and secure that using 2 pins this time rather than just 1, just to make it nice and secure. And you can take out those old pins there. But on the other side, you still want to leave those pins in place. So you have 3 on the other side, 2 on this side. Okay, we are ready to put it on the handle. So you're going to want a mandrel. This is just my knot tying, like my practice knot tying thing. These are old knots. Anyway, I like to use it to make my Stockwhip keepers, to form the keepers on handles and on the thongs of Stockwhips. Alright, so make that nice and secure. Next, what we're going to be doing is just draping this over, okay? And so you can leave these strands in behind over here. You're going to want these strands in your hands and ready, okay? So, how it should look is on the left side. So in this case, blue. We have this strand going over, this strand going under, and this strand going over. On the opposite side, the black in this case, it's going under, over, and under. So now we take this strand that's going under up top, we're going to go over, under, over. Now we take this strand that's going over, under, and we're going over, under. Now this next strand, over, under, over, under. Okay? Now, this last strand over here, under, over, under, over. Now, you should have 4 squares, just like a square start. Now, we will tighten it by gently pulling the strands. You don't want to muscle it. Just gently tug on each one, just to set it in place. I'm going to swiftly take out all the pins. Just put them next to you so that they're ready to use again, because you're going to want to pin this next part in place as well. Okay, so now pull tight, 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 pull, pull. Now make sure this one. And don't worry, setting up a keeper is always scary. So if you're feeling nervous, it's okay. But hopefully I'll be able to help you out, because first time I made a Stockwhip, I messed up the keeper so many times that I had to restart like 4 or 5 times. So don't worry if that happens to you. Just try it again. You will get it. And if you can't get it and it's just not working, you can always send me a message on Instagram or comment down below, and I'll answer as soon as I possibly can and help you out. So pin that in place right at the bottom. So now you have your half and half pattern set up. As you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blue strands on the right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 black strands on the left. You can already see how it's the half and half pattern. So you take out the pin. Ooh, now it's getting real. Now you want to pull this strand here fairly tight, but it should be tight from before because that's directly connected to the keeper we made earlier. Now, this is just going to be a simple 12 plait diamond tutorial, and I'll be showing you a 10 plait diamond tutorial. It's the same thing, but just with slightly different techniques. So, we have a strand that's going under, strand that's going over, strand that's going under, over, and over. What we're going to want to do, strand that's going under is going to go over our blue strand. Strand that's going over is going to go under our blue strand. So basically, you can think of it like this. Going under, going over, going over, going under, going under, going over, going over, going under, going under, going over, and so on. And so the biggest thing is you want to end by going over a strand. Okay, so now, this strand here, the blue strand is pointing to the upper left. Now, make sure that all your strands are nice and flat. This strand up here is the uppermost strand, so we're going to make sure it's nice and tight, and then let go of it. It's going to be right there. Now, same as we did with the black. This one's going under, it's going to go over. Over, under, under, over, under, over, under. Okay? Now, you're going to want to take your strand like this and just pull it through. Okay? Now, we have plaited 2 strands, and we don't want to do a full pass just yet. We're just going to do 3 or 4, maybe 6 strands, and then we're going to insert the handle into our keeper setup. This is looking good so far. Next, this strand here is pointing to the upper right. Make sure that's nice and tight, as usual, and then let go of it. Now, same on the left. Under, over, under, over, under, under, over, over, under. Okay, so you want to lift up the strands that are going to go over our blue strand. Now, go under, grab that blue strand that you're going to plait, and bring it through those strands. Now that we're here, we're just going to continue doing our diamond plait. It's also called a checkerboard pattern, but I like diamond because it sounds nice and fancy. So just the same as we were doing before. Now we've plaited our 4th strand. Let's do 6. We're going to plait 6 strands, and then we'll insert the handle, and I'll show you what to do next. And again, we are not pulling tight. Leave it loose, because you want to have enough space to insert that handle comfortably. Otherwise, you will have to loosen this entire setup, possibly have to redo the whole thing. So leave it loose, okay? Alright, so we've plaited 5 strands, and then the 6th one will be with the handle inserted. Just make sure it's all even. You still have all 6 black strands on the left side or the right, and all 6 blue strands on the right or the left. You just don't want, you want solid colors on each side. You don't want to have one random black strand on this side. Now we're going to take our handle, okay, and lift this up, and you should see an opening. You see that? Now we're going to take the end. Make sure you don't mess up any of the strands we've plaited or anything, and just insert it right there. Okay? Now, at this point, we are going to pull nice and tight on each strand here, and we'll be pulling tighter as we plait more strands, so you don't have to pull really tight yet. Okay, so before we tighten these strands, we're going to plait a black strand on the left. So just make sure these are really snug all the way around that handle. Now, pull this one, make sure it's nice and tight. Let go of it, and go under, and pull this one around to here. Now, pull, 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 and pull. Now that should be nice and tight, and we will tighten it as we go along. So now what we're going to do, let's just put a pin in place so we can really pull on it. And just make sure that your handle is right in line with the top of the keepers. So you should have about 1/8 of an inch of the handle sticking just above the start of our diamond plait there. And make sure that the starts of your keepers are nice and neat still, that you didn't pull too hard and make it uneven. So now we're going to pull nice and tight here and secure that handle in place. Put that needle again, and the same on the left side. Ow, I just poked myself with that needle. Be careful of that when you're using needles. So just pull, 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 and pull. And you'll notice some strands are looser than others. So those strands, just pull them nice and tight. And yeah, it's looking nice so far. And I usually do 3 to 4 inches of diamond on the handles. And on the thongs I usually do 2 inches because you don't want it too stiff, but sometimes as a design choice I will make it a little bit longer. Anyway, any strands that are sticking out a bit, find where they are and just pull them flat. I had an example of that on the back side of the handle, and I no longer do. Perfect. So just try and find, like, track down those strands and just pull them tight. Now the next strand we got a plait. It's on the upper right. So pull, go under, under, over, under, over, under, over. Okay. Bring that all the way through. I learned diamond plait from Ron Edwards' book, How to Make Whips. It's an awesome book. I recommend it for any whip maker. If you're a beginner or a pro, it's an awesome book. Even though it's for leather, a lot of the information and techniques I use for my nylon whips came from that book. And so, even though it's a different material, it's still fine. Make sure you have all the strands nice and flat and laid out so that you don't make a mistake while you're plaiting. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable plaiting it at first, but don't worry, it'll get a lot easier. And once I'm about 4 inches down, I'll just put it in the vise. Normally, unless I'm doing 2 handles that are going to be matched. In that case, I plait them right next to each other, and so I set up 2 mandrels, or I just do this 1 mandrel, which I gotta cut these knots off because the mandrel's too small now, and then I plait them right next to each other. So I do, let's say, 3 inches on this handle, 3 inches on this handle, just to make sure that that pattern stays consistent across both handles the entire time. Pull. And yeah, take your time with diamond plait. You want it to be really tight and really nice and even. When I first was doing diamond plait, for some reason, and I've seen this on a lot of whips by beginners and just by people who are new to diamond plait, one side will be really tight. Usually the side with your dominant hand. So say the blue side, it'll be really tight, but then the other side, which would be on my left, will be much looser, and it'll still be pretty tight, but those strands will just kind of be sticking out. And on some of my early whips you can see that, but now I've learned that you want the same tension on both sides. I mean, well, I knew that the whole time, but I just didn't really know how to do it. And don't worry, if you do want to do a solid color handle, then in the video where I make a thong, like the thong of this Stockwhip, then I'll show you how to do, it'll be 10 plait, so it won't be 12, but it's the same principle on how to set up your keeper. Because it can be confusing, but because you're doing a solid handle, if you are doing a solid handle, you can do one solid keeper rather than 2 separate ones. I do like the 2 separate keepers. It doesn't make a difference, especially in performance. Like, you can't really tell, and it doesn't feel any different. so it really doesn't affect performance. But yeah, so in that video I will be showing how to set up the thong keeper the conventional way, which is just a solid color. But when I started doing handles, I actually made a pretty big mistake, and this is why I want to tell you guys about it, because I don't want you making the same mistake as me. What I used to do is I used to plait a flat braid, a 5-strand, or yeah, usually a 5-strand flat braid, and then I'd bind that to the handle, because I figured, well, it's the same as making a half-plait Stockwhip with a wooden handle, right? So what happened was, I thought that, and I secured it a lot. Like, I put a lot of binding on that keeper to secure it. And so then what I would do is, for the overlay on the handle, I would just do a simple square start. And usually the patterns would come out consistent. Sometimes I'd make a mistake and have to restart. Anyway, I was really happy with that. It did make a very bulky keeper right at the top. Like this zone over here, it wouldn't be this smooth. Anyway, I did that on all of my Stockwhips. So I made a matched pair, and I saw that 2 strands on one of the keepers and almost a 3rd strand had pulled out of their binding. They had been pulled from their binding and were loose, and so it was basically a 3-strand flat braid with 2 extra strands thrown in. And so instantly I was really worried. I'm like, I'm gonna make 2 new handles with a new design. And so then I did the what's it called? Integrated keeper. So I did the 5-strand flat braid, and then I think I did do 6-strand, sorry, 6-strand flat braid, and then connected them by doing a square start. And that worked, but I couldn't get the patterns consistent. And so then I discovered this technique that Torrance Fisher uses, which is the half and half pattern. And the patterns will always be the same as long as you set it up correctly, which you should, because it's not very difficult to do. And now I use this technique. It's very strong, so these keepers, I don't even think it's possible to pull out a strand, because you're going to be plaiting this entire handle with that. Then, like, I don't think you can pull a strand out. So it's incredibly secure, and the patterns will stay consistent. And for this handle, I'm going to be keeping it very simple. Just simple diamond plait designs. I'll maybe throw in some short herringbone, and then just use normal herringbone. So I might use some double diamond, but I will be explaining every plait that I do all along the way, so that you guys can get started nice and easy. I won't be doing any bird's eye or anything like that. Pull it nice and tight. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to end it pretty square. So end the checkerboard square. So the last one, then last 2 strands are going to be plaited like herringbone. Just make sure, yeah, see how it's all the same tension? That's what we want. I don't think I explained how to do it. Oh, sorry about that. So you want to take one strand, two strands. So now you have two strands right at the top there. Okay, again, let go of them. Now, these two strands, it's going to go over these, under these two, and over these two. Now, I like to get this finger under here to hold it down, and then bring that one around. It's just the same thing all the way down. Perfect. Right there is the 20-inch mark. Right there. You guys hopefully can see that. Now what we're going to want to do is make another slip knot, just like before. I just put in about 4 needles, 4 needles right there, and we are going to put our slip knot over the whole thing and slide it down, get it right there. Perfect. Now I'm going to take this, fold it in half, bring it down a bit like this, and now I'm going to wrap around and around. Snip that, slip it through the loop we've created right there. Now, oh, that's really tight. Pull that loop in, just like that. Now, we'll just tie 2 normal half hitches. Nice and tight. Just really secure that. And grab my lighter and smush it down. Be careful when you smush it down. Maybe don't do what I just did. And I'm going to take it out of the vise. I think the handle looks really awesome. Hopefully you get a similar result. Yeah, okay. Now, what I'm going to do is just grab a garbage can. And I'm going to be snipping all these strands. At first you can just cut them a little bit long, doesn't really matter, because we're going to go back and trim them even more. Okay, now we've made our preliminary cuts, we're just going to straighten all the strands here. Make them nice and straight so that they'll be even. Now, just cut there. Because we want this to be nice and flat at the very end for our knot. And don't worry about this, we're going to cut that off. And for that we'll use, well, I'll be using a Dremel, but you could use an angle grinder or a hacksaw. I used to use a hacksaw, but then I was like, oh, I could just use my Dremel and it would be a lot faster. And because I do this a lot, I make a lot of these handles, I really want it to be pretty quick. Okay, there we go. We've trimmed the end nice and floofy. And we're gonna take my torch and then I'll smush it on the vise, the anvil part of the vise right there. There's our handle. Now it's time to roll it. Okay, I'm down on my floor right now. I have my 2 wooden pallets that I got at Michael's on sale. I use these for rolling whips. Because they're wood, you can put a lot of force on them. They're nice and smooth and flat. I just really like these. I recommend them for rolling whips. So let's roll this handle. Alright, so we're just going to start at the top here. Sometimes you'll get teeny tiny, like 2 or 3 millimeter gaps, and you'll see the metal of the golf club, but once you roll it, that all goes away pretty much, especially once you roll it a few times. So the next technique I'm going to do for rolling is I'm going to roll it this way, and I find you can put a lot more force like that. Awesome. I am really happy with this. Yeah, I think it's turning out well. Thank you for watching part 1 of my how to make a nylon Stockwhip with a full plait handle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comment section or message me on Instagram at GPachinStudios or at GPachinWhips. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.